My name is Barbara B. Montes, and I am 28 years old. When he said, "Let's just be friends," I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't ask what I did wrong or try to negotiate my way back into a relationship that had already been quietly draining the life out of me. I just looked at him across that coffee shop table, nodded once, and said, "Perfect." The word landed heavier than I expected, judging by the way his eyebrows lifted like he'd misheard me. We'd been together for about a year and a half. Nothing explosive, no cheating that I know of. Just a slow erosion that I kept telling myself was temporary. Less affection, more sarcasm, everything I did, somehow being slightly wrong. The kind of relationship decay that doesn't scream at you. It just wears you down until you forget what peace feels like. 2 months ago, he asked me to meet for coffee, which should have been my warning sign. He never wanted to talk things out unless he'd already made up his mind. He wrapped both hands around his cup, sighed dramatically, and said he thought we should just be friends. Not a break, not space. Friends. Then he followed it with the line that still irritates me when I replay it. "You're really important to me. I just don't see you that way anymore." I waited for the rest. The apology, the explanation, the acknowledgement of what we'd built. Nothing came, so I said it. "Okay, perfect." That actually threw him. He blinked and said, "Wait, really?" I nodded. "Yeah, friends." His shoulders relaxed instantly, and he smiled like he'd just been let off the hook of a responsibility he didn't want anymore. He started explaining how mature this was, how he didn't want to lose me, how I was one of his best people. He even joked that nothing would really change. That was the moment something clicked for me. Not anger, not heartbreak, clarity. Friends have rules. Friends don't get boyfriend privileges. Friends don't get emotional labor on demand. Friends don't get access to my time just because they're bored, lonely, or need reassurance. I paid for my coffee, wished him luck, and left without making a scene. Later that night, he texted me like nothing had happened. A meme, then another, then WID. That's when I realized he thought just friends meant same access, zero responsibility. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I decided to show him instead. The shift happened immediately, and that's what surprised me the most. The morning after our friends' talk, he texted me like he always had. "Did you sleep okay?" Normally, I would have replied without thinking, probably followed by a question of my own, something that kept the conversation looping all day. This time, I didn't answer until after work, not to make a point, not to be dramatic. I was just busy living my life, something he apparently hadn't factored into this new arrangement. When I did reply, I kept it light and short. "Yeah, hope you're good." No follow-up question, no emotional invitation, no opening for a long check-in. He noticed immediately. That evening, he called me. Not FaceTime, just a regular call, like he expected privacy and attention on demand. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hey," he said, "you sound distant." "I'm not," I replied. "Just got back from the gym." There was a pause. "Oh, you usually text me when you get home." "Yeah," I said calmly. "Usually." He laughed awkwardly, then asked what I was doing that night. I thought about it honestly before answering. Grabbing dinner with a friend. He perked up. "Oh, who?" "Just a friend." That irritated him. I could hear it in the way his voice tightened. "Which one?" I smiled to myself. "Does it matter?" Another pause, longer this time. "Well, I just thought maybe we could hang out," he said. "Like old times, as friends." There it was. The expectation. "Can't tonight," I said. "Maybe another time." He sighed, sharp and theatrical. "Wow, you changed fast." "No," I replied. "We did." He didn't like that answer. I could tell by the way his tone shifted. "I didn't mean we stopped talking." "We didn't," I said. "We're talking right now." Silence. After we hung up, I realized something important. He wasn't missing me. He was missing access, the reassurance, the constant availability, the safety net of knowing I was there whenever he felt bored, insecure, or lonely. Friends don't work like that. Over the next few days, I kept doing exactly what I said I would. I treated him like any other friend. I didn't cancel plans for him. I didn't answer immediately. I didn't play therapist. When he vented about work, I listened briefly, then disengaged instead of fixing it for him. That's when the little comments started. "Must be nice not caring anymore." "You're acting kind of cold." I guess I mattered less than I thought. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just kept my boundaries where they were. And that's when he started getting mean. Not openly. Subtle. the kind of tone that creeps in when someone realizes they've lost control but haven't admitted it to themselves yet. About a week into our new friendship, he stopped pretending everything was fine. He'd reply slower, then double text when I didn't engage the way I used to. He'd send vague messages like, "Wow, guess I know where I stand." When I asked what he meant, he'd say, "Nothing, forget it." One night, he asked if I could help him move a bookshelf. Normally, I would have dropped whatever I was doing. Instead, I checked my calendar and said I couldn't. He snapped. "You never used to say no." "I know," I replied. "That was when we were dating." There was a long pause before he said, "You're really leaning into this friends thing, huh?" I didn't miss the edge in his laugh. "That was your idea." He sighed. "God, you're being so literal." "I didn't mean you stopped showing up for me." I almost said it out loud, that friends don't expect free labor on demand, but I didn't. No lecture, no explanation, just boundaries. That's when the guilt tripping escalated. He started bringing up memories randomly. "Remember when you used to come over just because? My friends keep asking why you don't care anymore." He framed it like concern, but it was accusation wrapped in nostalgia. I stayed consistent, polite, even warm, but unavailable. Then came the comment that made everything crystal clear. We were texting about work when he casually dropped, "It's kind of weird seeing you act like you don't want me anymore." I stared at my phone for a long moment before responding. "I don't want you," I wrote. "You said we're friends." That one hit a nerve. He fired back almost instantly. "Wow, so that's how easy it was for you." Easy. Like I'd been waiting for permission to detach. Like the year and a half before that hadn't slowly worn me down. "No," I typed. "It wasn't easy. It's just clear." He didn't respond after that. Not that night. And for the first time since the breakup, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt honest. The silence didn't last. It never does when someone realizes the old rules stopped working. A few days later, his tone shifted again. Softer this time, like he'd decided sweetness might reopen doors that guilt couldn't. Random check-ins appeared out of nowhere. "Hope your day's going well." Compliments that felt a week late. "You've been looking really good lately." Followed by a winking emoji I hadn't seen since we were still together. I replied with a thumbs up. That single emoji did more damage than any argument ever could. That evening, he asked if I wanted to grab a drink. "Just like old times," he added quickly, "as friends." I agreed, but on my terms. One drink, public place, no wandering, no nostalgia traps. When he showed up, it was obvious he hadn't read the room. He was dressed like it was a date, not casual, intentional, the kind of effort he used to put in only when he wanted reassurance. 5 minutes in, he leaned back and said, "You've been really distant." He stirred his drink too aggressively, ice clinking like punctuation. "I feel like you're punishing me." "I'm not," I said. "I'm treating you like a friend." He scoffed. "Friends don't act like this." "My friends do," I replied. "They don't expect emotional priority or exclusivity." His jaw tightened. "So what, you're just waiting to replace me?" I shrugged. "I'm living my life." That answer irritated him more than anything else. "I didn't think you'd move on this fast," he said. I didn't correct him because I hadn't moved on. I just moved out of the role. Halfway through the drink, he asked if I was seeing anyone. "No," I said. The relief in his shoulders was immediate, unguarded. He didn't even try to hide it. Then he added casually, "Good. I'd hate if things got awkward between us." That was the moment everything snapped into focus. He didn't want me. He wanted me available. When we stood to leave, he went in for a long hug, familiar, possessive. I stepped back and gave him the same quick side hug I give coworkers. His smile froze. "You're really serious about this," he said. "Yeah," I replied. "You asked for friends." He watched me walk away like he'd just realized a rule he made didn't work in his favor. A few days later, completely by accident, I met someone who made all of this very inconvenient for him. His name was Ethan. I didn't meet him in some dramatic way. He worked in marketing at the tech company, down the street from my office. We'd crossed paths in the elevator a few times, exchanged polite smiles. Nothing memorable. Until one evening, when a coworker invited me to a casual happy hour, and I decided to go, instead of staying home out of habit. Ethan was there. He was warm in a way that felt unfamiliar after months of walking on eggshells. He laughed easily, asked questions, and actually listened to the answers. Didn't interrupt. Didn't make little jokes at my expense. At one point, he said, "You seem really grounded," like it was a compliment, not a test. I remember thinking how strange it felt to not feel evaluated. We talked for maybe 40 minutes. Nothing flirty, just easy. When he mentioned he worked in the same building as my ex, different floor, it barely registered. At the end of the night, he said a few of them were grabbing coffee that weekend if I wanted to join. I said yes. I didn't text my ex about it. I didn't feel the need. 2 days later, I posted a harmless story. Group shot, coffee cups, nothing incriminating. Ethan was tagged by someone else, not me. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Is that Ethan from my office? I stared at the message, then replied honestly. Yeah, we're friends. That word again, friends. He didn't respond for a while, then finally, wow, that was fast. I almost laughed. Fast compared to what? The months of emotional limbo he put me in. I typed back, you said you wanted to be friends. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I didn't mean like this. I set my phone down, because for the first time since the breakup, something felt genuinely new. And I had a feeling he was about to learn that just friends doesn't mean still mine when I feel like it. Things escalated the moment he realized confusion wasn't going to pull me back in. The next time he texted me, the tone was sharper, stripped of the softness he'd tried on days earlier. So you're really hanging out with Ethan now? I replied the same way I would with any friend asking a question. Yeah, we're getting coffee again this week. There was a pause long enough to feel intentional. Then, you know that's weird, right? Weird made me smile. A month ago, he'd rewritten the rules of our relationship without blinking. Now suddenly, rules mattered. Why is it weird? I asked. Because you and I are still... He trailed off, then corrected himself. Friends. So are Ethan and I replied. That's when the bitterness stopped being subtle. He started sending paragraphs instead of sentences. How it was disrespectful. How it was shady to date someone he worked with. How Ethan wasn't even that great and had a reputation for flirting with everyone. I didn't defend Ethan. I didn't attack my ex. I just stayed calm and consistent, the way you do when someone crosses a line and expects you to chase them back across it. I don't see the issue, I wrote. Friends don't get veto power over each other's dating lives. That message set him off. Wow. So now you're trying to hurt me on purpose. There it was. The assumption that my choices existed to manage his emotions. I'm not doing anything to you, I replied. I'm just not prioritizing you anymore. He left me on read the rest of the night. The next morning he posted a story, less vague this time, a quote about fake people and watching who switches up when they think you're replaceable. I watched it, set my phone down, and went about my day. By then, I understood exactly what was happening. He didn't want me as a girlfriend. He just didn't want me to stop acting like one. Later that afternoon, Ethan texted me, Hey, just a heads up. Your ex was pretty cold to me at work today. Did I step into something? I stared at the message for a second, then typed back honestly, You didn't do anything wrong. He just doesn't like boundaries. Ethan replied with a laughing emoji. Good to know. That ease, that lack of drama, felt unreal. That's when it clicked fully. My ex wasn't upset because I was dating someone else. He was upset because I was doing it without asking his permission, because he was running out of ways to pretend friendship still meant control. He didn't come at me directly after that. Instead, he tried to go around me. A mutual friend texted one night out of the blue. Hey, are you okay? I replied that I was. Then came the explanation. Apparently, he'd been telling people I was spiraling, that I was acting out of character, that I was clearly not over him and using Ethan as some kind of revenge move. The funny part was what he left out. He never mentioned that he was the one who asked to be just friends. A few days later, he finally confronted me face to face, cornered me outside a bar we both used to go to, arms crossed, expression already loaded. So you're really dating him? He asked flatly. I am, I said. He shook his head like he was disappointed. I didn't think you were that kind of girl. What kind? I asked. The kind who moves on with someone I see every day, he snapped. It's embarrassing. For who? I asked. That sent him over the edge. You're doing this to prove something, he said. You want me to feel replaced. I looked at him for a long second before answering. You replaced yourself when you downgraded me to friend, but still expected boyfriend behavior. His face flushed. That's not fair. Neither was stringing me along, I replied. He scoffed. So what, Ethan's your boyfriend now? Yeah, I said. Saying it out loud felt solid. True. He laughed, sharp and bitter. Good luck. He'll get bored of you too. I didn't defend myself, didn't defend Ethan. I just smiled slightly. Maybe. But he won't expect access to my life after he lets me go. I walked away, and for the first time since the breakup, I wasn't the one left standing there. After that confrontation, the dynamic finally flipped. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in that quiet, unmistakable way that tells you someone is replaying conversations in their head and not liking the ending. He stopped texting me entirely, which honestly felt like relief, but he didn't stop watching. Ethan mentioned it casually one night while we were making dinner at my place, stirring a pot and laughing like it meant nothing. "Your ex keeps popping up on my Instagram," he said. "He watched your story from yesterday almost immediately." I shrugged. "He's very online." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Is this going to be a thing?" That question mattered more than any passive-aggressive quote ever could. "No," I said, and I meant it. The difference with Ethan was subtle but constant. He didn't ask who else I was talking to. He didn't need reassurance that he mattered. When I said I was busy, he believed me instead of taking it as a personal insult. That contrast made everything painfully clear. A few days later, my ex finally broke his silence with a wall of text. No greeting, no context, just straight into accusations. He said he felt discarded, that it was wild how quickly I'd replaced him, that I clearly never cared as much as he thought. He accused Ethan of being a rebound and me of being emotionally avoidant. I read it once, then again, slowly. Then I replied with one sentence. "You told me we were friends. This is what friends look like." That's when he lost it. "You're being cruel on purpose," he fired back. "You know exactly what you're doing." I put my phone down and didn't respond. That night, Ethan and I went out with his coworkers, a low-lit bar, easy laughter, nothing heavy. At one point, he leaned over and said, "I really like how uncomplicated you are." I almost laughed at the irony. Across the room, I saw a familiar face walk in and freeze. My ex. He saw us, saw Ethan's hand resting casually on my arm, saw me lean in to hear him over the music. For a moment, our eyes met. He looked shocked, then angry, then something else I couldn't quite name. Regret, maybe. I didn't wave. I didn't look away either. I just turned back to Ethan and kept talking. Later, Ethan asked quietly, "Was that him?" "Yeah," I said. He nodded. "Okay." No interrogation, no insecurity, just acceptance. And that's when it finally settled in. My ex wasn't mad because I was dating someone new. He was mad because I was happy without needing his permission. After that night, the orbit finally broke. The passive-aggressive stories stopped. The mutual friends stopped checking in. It was like he realized the audience wasn't buying the story anymore. Instead, he went direct one last time. He texted me late one evening. "So you're really serious about him?" I was sitting on the couch with Ethan while he argued with himself about whether garlic counted as a personality trait. It felt normal, easy. "Yeah," I replied. "I am." There was a long pause. Then, "I just don't get how you could move on like that." That line annoyed me more than it should have. "You moved on first," I typed. "You just wanted me to stay." That one didn't get an immediate reply. When it finally came, it was softer, almost reasonable. A voice message. He said he wasn't trying to lose me, that he just needed me to stay while he figured things out. There it was, finally said out loud. I didn't reply right away. I helped Ethan set the table. We ate dinner, talked about weekend plans, laughed about something stupid. Then later that night, I sent one last message. "Friends don't wait in limbo while you explore your options." That was it. No argument, no insults, no explaining. He never responded. The next day, Ethan told me my ex had requested to follow him on Instagram. Ethan declined it without comment and handed me his phone like it was nothing. "Boundaries," he said with a grin. I smiled back, because at that point, I understood something important. My ex didn't lose me when I started dating someone else. He lost me the moment he assumed I'd accept less just to stay connected. It's been a couple of months now, and things have settled into something I didn't expect. Peace, no late-night texts, no, just checking in, no passive-aggressive quotes meant for me to see. Ethan and I are still together, still easy, still normal, in the best possible way. We argue sometimes, sure, but there's no scorekeeping, no tests, no unspoken expectation that I owe him my time just because he wants it. The last thing I heard about my ex came through a mutual friend. Apparently, he'd been telling people I changed after the breakup, that I became cold and emotionally unavailable. I didn't bother correcting that. From my perspective, I didn't become cold. I became consistent. I stopped bending myself into whatever shape made someone else comfortable while quietly resenting it. When he said, "Let's just be friends," he thought he was choosing freedom without consequence. He thought friendship meant intimacy without responsibility. What he didn't account for was boundaries. Friends don't get exclusivity. Friends don't get emotional priority. Friends don't get to be upset when you move on. And friends definitely don't get to decide who you date. When he saw me happy, relaxed, not looking back, that's when it finally hit him. Just friends wasn't a downgrade for me. It was a reset. So yes, I treated him exactly like I treat my other friends, with respect, with distance, and with a life that doesn't revolve around keeping them comfortable. Turns out that was the part he couldn't handle, and honestly, that told me everything I ever needed to know.